This is Cannaramic, and we're bringing you cannabis like you've never seen it before.
This is Cannaramic, and we're bringing you cannabis like you have never seen before. Here we are again with one of our favorite expert panelists, Rob DiPisa of Schotz. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you for having me, Felicia. I appreciate it.
Well, whenever we need to know and understand what's happening in the law, we call you because you can help make it plain for regular folks like us who are not so endowed and clear. A couple things happened last week, and I want you to talk about the movement of the federal case, Washington versus the Attorney General, the DEA, which has been in the courts for a couple of years now. There was some significant movement with it last week. And if you can just kind of share a little bit about what that was and kind of what that means to the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, this truly is a significant case for cannabis, for the movement. Here's the first time that you're seeing the federal courts kind of put the DEA in the spotlight, that, they need to seriously reconsider the Schedule I status of cannabis, especially, in light of all the evidence that we have now, and the fact that, we do have FDA approved drugs that have derivatives of cannabis in it, and how can we still keep cannabis as a Schedule I drug, which provides that it has no health benefits whatsoever. One of the important aspects that the federal courts touched on was the fact that, you have people in this country who are suffering from serious medical conditions, and the time that it's taking for the DEA to reconsider the Schedule I status of cannabis, during that time period, people are suffering from ailments that they otherwise could be treating by cannabis. So it's almost like a cruel and unusual punishment, especially based on the time period that we're going to have to wait for the DEA to actually reconsider this. And so it's important in the sense that this could significantly accelerate the time period within which it will take for cannabis to potentially be approved for medicinal purposes on a federal level, right? It gets removed from its Schedule I status, well, then it's deemed to have medical benefits. And, and I think we've touched on this during our previous conversations. The Schedule I status of cannabis under the Controlled Substances Act is the root of all problems in this country when it comes to the cannabis industry. It's the root of all the banking problems. It's the root of all the insurance problems. It's the root of everything that, the growing pains that the cannabis industry is going through right now. So even though, its removal of Schedule I status would significantly help the progress on a federal level when it comes to the approval of cannabis for medical purposes, this may also alleviate all of the other issues that are surrounding both the medicinal and the adult use programs across the country. Because once it comes off the Schedule I status, I can foresee us having some great headway in the banking industry, in the insurance industry. And I think it's going to be really helpful for the industry. So the question comes down to, what does expeditiously mean, right? How long is it going to take the DEA to reconsider it? And, as we've seen, even right now with the FDA and the time it's taking for them to come out with rules and regs for the sale of cannabidiol or CBD products through interstate commerce, these things don't happen overnight. Even when a federal court is telling the DEA that they need to do it immediately, the hope is that they do it and they do it promptly. But, ultimately they're, they have to deal with the bureaucracy of a, federal agency, and they have to go through their, checks and protocol. And in the interim, people are suffering.
So what does this mean? That the judges basically told the DEA they need to take another look at this in an expeditious fashion. Did they put any parameters on the time frame at all? And then what does it look like that the DEA is taking a look at this? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So I believe the term, or one of the terms, was promptly consider the scheduling of cannabis. But the term promptly, I mean, from my perspective, when someone tells me promptly, I view it as immediately. And we can only hope that the DEA approaches it in the same manner. But to be honest, we really don't know. I mean, it's good. This is great, right? It is it's putting a fire under the DEA, and whatever time period they had in their head, it's definitely been accelerated. The question is when. When is this going to happen?
So what are they going to do? They're going to have to assemble a panel of experts. They're going to have to, get their research together to justify the Schedule I status.
Correct. So what they're probably going to have to do is come up with a special task force. They're going to have to gather as much information and data as possible in order to justify the removal of cannabis from its Schedule I status. And I would imagine it's going to be mostly driven by the evidence in the medical field that cannabis can be used to treat multiple.
But wouldn't they want to justify not to remove it? So, because we all know that all the evidence points to it not being on the schedule, but isn't that what they want? We want to keep it on the schedule. So wouldn't they bring people who say that it should stay on the schedule?
So there's definitely going to be a collective group from both sides. Some that say it should be removed, and some say that it shouldn't. And they're going to come out with a report based on those investigations. But I just think, and even the court stated, you quote the court, they said, in light of the current state of our knowledge about the drug, it clearly, the court knows, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but every single judge in that federal court had similar opinions about, and it came through their statements about what should happen with cannabis. There's usually some judge that's known as the dissenting judge, and that's the judge who says, I don't really agree with the other judges and what they're saying. I think it should remain Schedule I, or I don't think the DEA should be expediting their process. That one judge did that here.
Wow! So we got some cannabis supporting judges there.
yeah, and I just think overall, there's so much more information out there than there was previously. And I feel like year over year, we just get more and more. And that information is contagious. And, it all comes down to the knowledge being the power, right? And the more educated people are, the more understanding they are of the benefits of cannabis, whether it's, them personally suffering from something or a close friend or loved one. So I think that we're now seeing that spread of information infiltrate even the court system and judges. And that's why everyone advocates, right? They advocate so that they spread knowledge and information, hoping that it gets to those that have the power to make changes. And here we have the opportunity to see this firsthand.
So this is a really big development. Like you said, it can impact the other areas that are stifled by the regulation. Is it possible that they could feasibly do like Schedule I, or if it became descheduled to maybe Schedule II? Would that also still have would it also have restrictions in terms of people's uses? Like what's the schedule that we really would like for it to be on?
What we'd really like for it to be is removed from the Controlled Substances Act. That would really alleviate every concern. But I don't anticipate that happening. It's probably going to be dialed back to Schedule II, Schedule III, Schedule IV. We will still have obstacles, but nowhere near as many when it comes to Schedule I status, especially when it comes to the medical field. So once it steps back from that Schedule I status, I believe that gives a pathway. I don't know what the timetable is, but a pathway to potentially medicinal cannabis being legalized on a federal level, which is exciting for a lot of people suffering from different ailments out there in states that otherwise don't have medical programs. And then we're going to see, when the federal government makes movement in the medical field, how does that then affect the states who don't have medical programs? And are we going to have a little bit of a tug of war between those states and the federal government when it comes to treating medical patients in those states that don't have medical programs? So I think
this is exciting. This is exciting stuff. It
is
a drama being played out right before our eyes.
Of course.
But we got to hold on tight because there's a lot more to go. We don't want to get too excited, but this was a very, very promising movement. And thank you so much for breaking it down for all of us and continuing to work and help us to forge ahead in this crazy wild west of cannabis we're in. Thank you for that.
Thank you.